Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. Happy New Year's! We've survived 2023. Hopefully 2024 will be a better year for everyone. It's kind of a small week. There's a few catch up titles from last week, and really, I knew it would be a very quiet week, so that's why I doubled up last week. And then this week is light. Next week looks, I think we're going to be in, usually January is a little lighter on the lighter side, not a lot of big books coming out. So hopefully these will be a little bit shorter than usual. I apologize for not putting books in the back. It's been really crazy, with the holidays and trying to get things back on track with this. It's just been crazy. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll start putting more books back on the shelf so you can see and we can talk about those. But let's get to this week's new comic book reviews and get them out of the way. First up, we have Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries #1, written by Shali Fish, and with artwork by Dario Brazulla. So once again, this is an all ages a book from DC. So I think what they're doing, instead of doing, they're doing multiple series. It's same type of book, same setup. It's the Scooby Gang with Batman and or a Batman family. In this case, the story centers around a circus that is being haunted by Dead Man, of all people. And so Nightwing, of course, Dick Grayson, is very familiar with circuses because of his how he grew up. And he and the Scooby Gang help solve the mystery of the mysterious dead man appearing. So as with always, I'm a big fan of these books. They're great all ages books, but if you're a fan of Batman and Scooby-Doo, especially like the animated stuff, these books are right up your alley. They're really well written. Shali Fish does a really nice job. Brazilla does a nice job of keeping kind of an animated type style, more of the Hanna-Barbera like Scooby-Doo, very, clean lines and everything. But it's always a good looking book. They're fun stories. And they're also, what I love about them is they're one and done. It's a self-contained story. So like, if you find issue 1, great. If you find issue 2, you can read it by itself. And that's what I really love about this semi-continuing series. They're well worth picking up, and they're like I said, they're great for all ages. Next up, we have The Vengeance of Moon Knight #1, written by Jed MacKay with artwork by Alessandro Cappuccino, or Cappuccino, I think. So basically, I guess this spins out of the previous Moon Knight series, which I did not read. So trying a #1, there's a bit of a, kind of previously, but it really, unfortunately, doesn't really explain much. What I'm able to piece together from this first issue is that Mark Spector is missing and possibly dead. And the rest of the Midnight Mission team, Tigra and some of the others, are carrying on, helping the neighborhood and keeping it organized and stuff like that. And so, that's the basic premise. Once again, we don't know what if you haven't read the other one, I don't know what happened to Moon Knight or anything. And most of this issue is about, who is it? Let me look it up. That Reese, she's kind of the leader. She's a vampire, and she's recounting a lot of the story through her therapist. And that's really what this first issue is. The unfortunate problem is that if you haven't read the previous series or know what's going on, you're kind of a little lost with this. I mean, it's all nice and everything, but there's a setup for Moon Knight possibly coming back. And that's all nice and everything, but it's not particularly compelling to new readers. I guess if you're a reader of the previous series, then you're going to be fine. But I think, when you have a #1, you should make it, this is a start. But unfortunately, Marvel tends to do this a lot. And, once again, the story is okay. Jed MacKay does, it moves along. But it's like, if you haven't been reading the book, you're kind of a bit lost. And, there's not really a big hook for me to like, oh, these people are really interesting, or what has happened to Mark Spector or Moon Knight. Honestly, by the end, I didn't care. Cappuccio's artwork is actually the artwork's really nice and everything, but you can't save a story that is not new reader friendly. So this is a skip this week. I'd say it's not worth picking up. Next up, we have Local Man number 8, written by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleece. The artwork for the Farmington sequences is drawn by Tony Fleece, and the third gen backup artwork is drawn by Tim Seeley. So what we have on this one, so there's been a murder of a girl. She drowned, but yet she was a swimmer. So there's kind of a murder mystery going on, and Jack's trying to figure it out. And what we're also, we found out from the first series that Inga, his girlfriend, when he, was, cross Jack, she runs a bakery, but we also know that she's in cahoots with kind of like the government that makes the superheroes. And we find out in this issue, we kind of had an inkling in the previous issues that we find out that Seascape, she's one of the fourth gen superheroes, is the one that killed the girl and causing the problems. So there's that. And then last issue, Jack went into like kind of a hippie commune, and they gave him some drugs, so he's still kind of hallucinating. And the question is, with him being a superhero, that's kind of affecting his superhero powers in a way. It's kind of weird, but amazing. Once again, this is kind of the middle part of this story arc. I'm a really big fan of this book. The Fleece and Seeley are just really knocking it out of the park, both story and art wise. And I like how the third gen backup is kind of, it's a story from the past, but it relates, they've all related to what's going on in, the current timeline, with Jack going back to Farmington. And I'm really, like I said, I'm a really big fan of this book. Unfortunately, this is a book you cannot quite jump back into. Now, there is a trade of the first story arc, and that would get you enough to this next story arc. And then what they're doing is, between each story arc, they're doing kind of these one-shots, kind of what they call annuals. The last one that came out was Gold, and it was somewhat of standalone. It was a standalone story, but you did kind of have to know what was going on with the characters. But definitely, I really like this book a lot. Still well worth reading. Both story and artwork are really strong in this book, and it's still well worth picking up every month. Next up, we have Birds of Prey, number 5, written by Kelly Thompson, with artwork by artist Deanne. So this is a fill-in issue, I guess, that is happening, but it's still, the artwork's nice. The story's continuing. The Diana has gotten her team, the Birds of Prey, to Amazon, to Theraschema to rescue her sister Sin, and Megara has one. Basically, Sin has kind of like wanted to be more of a hero like her sister, and so Megara has kind of heard this, her thoughts, and wants to have a physical form in her. So that's what the Birds of Prey are trying to stop. So while Diana's trying to rescue Sin, Megara has possessed the Amazons, and so the rest of the team's battling them. So we kind of learn that, Megara, yeah, it's a villain, but it's like, is it really doing anything wrong? Because Sin kind of called it in a way. So that's kind of what this was. Really an interesting issue. I'm really digging this book. Thompson's really just doing a really wonderful job. Leonardo Romero, he still did the cover on this, but he's him and Jordi Belair are not in this issue. But Deanne did a really nice fill-in job. The artwork's actually really quite nice. They also did the color work on it. Of course, it's not Jordi Belair, but that's not a knock against Deanne. Does a nice job in coloring. Once again, we're still in the first story arc, so it looks like the next issue will kind of wrap things up. But I'm really digging this book. I like what Thompson is doing here, and hopefully it lands really well for this first story arc, but still well worth picking up. Next up, we have Marvel Meow, number 1, written and drawn by Neo Fuji. Now, this is a digital first. The best way to kind of say it's like It's Jeff stories, where they're little short stories with, in this case, minimal dialogue. There is some dialogue. Usually the Jeff ones, It's Jeff, are silent. but basically it's about all the cats and some dogs from the Marvel universe, and kind of these little self-contained stories, because once again they're digital. Unfortunately, it was kind of okay. It wasn't bad. I kind of had high hopes for it. But really what it was, the Fuji's artwork is nice and everything, but there's sometimes where it's kind of like a little on the simplistic side, which kind of like took me out a little bit. There's a lot of times where there's not a lot of background, so that's a whole nother story. And I'm not happy when there's not backgrounds. But really it's just the stories are just kind of very average. There were a few of them that were better than others, and honestly, some of the there was a few that actually had Jeff in it, the little baby shark. But overall, it was just kind of okay. So I wasn't, it's fine if you're reading digitally because it comes, I think it's free with the Marvel Unlimited. But as a print, book of these, I just can't really recommend them because they're okay. They're not terrible. But they're just not great. It's not as exciting as like the Jeff stuff. So I would say read this digitally and kind of skip the print version on this. Next up, we have Kneel Before Zod, #1, written by Joe Casey, with artwork by Dan McDade. So what this is Zod is kind of ruling this planet. He's taken over this planet, in his quest to, pretty much revenge against Krypton, and well, it's got it blown up, but but kind of recreating his version of Krypton. And so he has the bottled city of Kandor, and they're in stasis. And what he plans to do is kind of take control of this planet and then repopulate it in, like his image. And that's the plan. Now, his firstborn son, Lore, is kind of running, kind of a section of the planet. And he's kind of doing things on his own. He's not following his father's instructions. So his father basically banishes him for a couple reasons. One, not listening to him. And two, so he has to learn for himself. He has to learn to, pick up his bootstraps and, survive on his own. So there's that. And then of course, his wife, oh God, I can't think of Ursula. So they're married, or they're, at least they're together. It was kind of okay. I don't know that. I mean, Zod is an interesting character. I just don't know that I was particularly compelled with this story that Casey came up with. I mean, it's okay and everything, but it's kind of basic, and I think that's it. There wasn't, for me, a particularly real hook there for like, okay, he's a bad guy. He wants to, reimagine Krypton in his image. Okay, great, we know that, but there wasn't anything beyond that. There wasn't anything that we kind of don't already know. I mean, there was some nice, moments between, Zod and Ursula, but overall it was just kind of okay. McDade's artwork's nice and everything, but once again, with an okay story, the art's only going to take you so far. So kind of an okay book. I wasn't particularly overwhelmed with this one this week. Next up, we have Pine and Merrimac, #1, written by Kyle Starks, with artwork by Fran Galan. So what this is that Leanna, she's a former detective, and she became a detective because her sister was kidnapped, and eventually, as with unfortunately a lot of kidnap victims, they end up murdered. So she kind of likes being a police officer, but she doesn't want to just solve murder mysteries because they're just kind of depressing after a while. So she ends up on one case, she ends up meeting this Parker. He was an MMA fighter, and they, because she's solving this case while she's a detective, and they fall in love and they get married and everything. And she decides to retire and start a private investigating, firm, because she doesn't want to, because she knows murder, kidnappings usually end up in not good circumstances. So she wants to just solve, she does, like, the cheating on the wife and the husband, all those kind of things, to pay the bills, and basically Parker's the muscle. And but the great thing about this book is that they're actually a couple that likes each other. I mean, that's a rarity in comics, because everything, oh, they have a bad relationship. No, they actually have a great relationship, and it's great to see that. And you rarely see that in pretty much most media, even beyond comics. So they end up taking a kidnapping case, which, she, reluctantly, because the picture of the girl kind of reminds of her sister. So she's like, she kind of wants to fix something she couldn't fix. That's her plan. So obviously it's going to get a little darker. This first issue is kind of light and airy and everything. It's really good. I'm a big fan of Kyle Starks. He's a great writer. He's also a great artist, but he's just writing here. But the big win for this book, beyond this great story, is Galan's artwork. It is really a gorgeous looking book. So you have a really great story, really solid artwork. This is a big win this week. This is a big recommendation this week. I really like this book a lot. Well worth checking out. Next up, we have Superman 78, The Metal Curtain, number 3, written by Robert Venditti, with artwork by Gavin Guidry. So this is kind of the middle-ish part of the story. What it is this is continuity based in the 1978 Richard Donner film. So what Venditti kind of does here, he kind of takes elements from the first and the second movie. So Superman has taken Lois to the Fortress of Solitude, but she still does not know that he's Clark. That has not been revealed to her. But what it is there's a piece of kryptonite that has landed in Russia, and Russia's kind of made their own Superman, Metallo. So he's kind of in a robot body. And so what this is last issue, Superman saved a fighter jet, and Metallo attacked him and nearly killed him, and he's still feeling the effects of the kryptonite. He's not quite 100%, but he does save the pilot. He's picked up by a battleship, and lo and behold, the general on the battleship is Sam Lane, who is Lois Lane's father. So there's that going on. So that's kind of interesting. That's an interesting twist in the story that Venditti has put in there. I really like this. If you're a fan of the Richard Donner Superman books, Venditti obviously really understands the Donner version, especially of the second film. And Guidry does a really nice job of capturing the likenesses of the actors in it. It's just a fun story, and I like that it's just a little on the simple side. It's just a fun, light read. And I like that, and that's all that the book's trying to do, and it does it very well. So I still think it's worth picking up. I'm enjoying this second story arc, so definitely continue to check it out. Next up, we have Fantastic Four, number 15, written by Ryan North, with artwork by Ivan Forelli. So what it was is the Baxter Building was under attack. Reed Richards sent it into the future a year, and they've come back to New York, and it's supposed to appear, but it didn't. So now, last issue, there was a character, Passy, who created this, basically created this app, and basically granted kind of people's wishes in a way. Well, what came out of it is this China brain. It became sentient. So even though Reed destroyed the servers and everything, the China brain was still sentient. Think of it like Hal from 2001. That's a really good kind of analogy. And so it's basically the China brain has kept the Baxter Building from coming back. So and then I really don't want to give anything away more in the story, but the way North handles this with kind of this sentient being that is kind of causing problems, but really it's just it's a newborn kind of thing. So It's really quite interesting how he's really done this story, and it's actually pretty emotional, which is nice and surprising. Farrelly's artwork is really nice. It's good looking. I'm a big fan of this book. I think everybody, this is a book that a lot of people are not checking out that you really need to be picking up. I'm really digging what Ryan North is doing with this book, and it's still well worth checking out. Next up, we have Shazam #7, written by Mark Waid with artwork by Goran Suzuka. Suzuka, I think. I apologize if I've messed that up. So last issue, the T-Rex legal alien dinosaurs have come looking for the one that they sent because Billy had messed things up, so there was a lot of paperwork involved. So now they've attacked Black Adam, and so they're fighting, and then they head to Billy's house, and so they end up there. Black Adam ends up there. Captain Marvel ends up there. They all start fighting, and then the paperwork explodes and everything, and chaos ensues. I don't want to really give any way anymore because there's a lot of really neat little subtle humor and really good stuff in this issue. Wade's knocking out of the park. I really love this book. He really gets Captain Marvel, Shazam. And I know Dan Mora was doing the artwork, but Goran Suzuka he does a really nice job. And this is not a knock. It kind of has a bit of a Kevin Maguire feel. Art wise, but it's not kind of a, just he's not copying or anything. That is, to me, that's a huge compliment. I mean, if you're gonna kind of model after, a lot of artists actually start kind of mimicking other artists. A good example is Jim Steranko. His early work looked like Jack Kirby, and it was not that good. Where in the case of Suzuka here, it really is a nice looking book. I mean, it's not Dan Mora, but he's doing a really nice job and definitely picked up the reins. The story's kind of continuing from that, but like I said, it's a really good looking book. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Mark Waid gets Captain Marvel big time, and I'm really loving what he's doing. Still well worth picking up. Next up, we have Beware the Planet of the Apes #1, written by Mark Guggenheim with Alvaro Lopez. And then there's excerpts from the Marvel comic Adventures on the Planet of the Apes, written by Doug Munch, with artwork by George Tuska. So this takes place before. It's a prequel to the 1968 Charlton Heston, the original Planet of the Apes, which I'm a huge fan of the original Planet of the Apes. Especially the first movie is quite brilliant. So what it is the story finds, it really centers on Cornelius and Zira and their nephew Lucius. And what it is Lucius is out, and he runs in, because they're rounding up the humans because the apes hate humans. And he runs into Nova, who's in the original film, which Charlton Heston meets up with. And so what it is he's kind of, he goes missing, and they think he's in the Forbidden Zone, which they're not supposed to go to. And Zara is just like, I'm gonna go find him. So they head to the Forbidden Zone, and we, as we know, if you've seen the film, bit of a spoiler, but it's from 1968, that the Forbidden Zone is basically, because we know that it really is Earth in the future. So in this, they start discovering, which leads into the film where they discover stuff. And I really like it. Once again, Guggenheim, I like a lot of his books that he does, and he obviously understands the original 68 film and its sequels and that kind of timeline. Lopez's art is really nice, and I like how they actually blended in the Tuska artwork from the original Marvel book that kind of adapted the 68. It really fits in quite well, even though obviously it's visually different. It makes sense for it to fit in like that. So that was really smart move on Guggenheim's part to include that in the story. I really like that. And like I said, Lopez's art's really nice. So if you're a fan of the original 68 film, definitely pick this book up. I really like it. I like that it's a prequel because then, you have a lot of room to move around, do stories that don't affect the story from the film. So definitely check that out. It was a big surprise this week. And finally this week, we have Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville, number 5, written by Joanne Starr, with artwork by Natasha Busto. So Fire had hooked up with Lobo. They had it seems like they had a bit of a one night stand. So Lobo's taken off. He's stolen all the money from the villains and wrote a note, said suckers. And the salon catches on fire. There's kind of still some, push and pull from Fire and Ice. They're still kind of not getting along a little bit. So then the villains who they're trying to rehabilitate kind of go crazy in the town and start stealing stuff. Probably one of my favorite ones is gentleman Jim Ghost steals people's cell phones and then they sell them back to their people. So they're kind of like stealing their phones but selling them back to them. That's how they're raising money. Ambush Bug is stealing potatoes for some unknown reason. I really have fallen in love with this book. Star's done a really fun job with this book, and it's a blast. Like I said, it started off a little slow, not bad or anything, but man, it's really hit its stride. This has been a really nice surprise. Busto's artwork really fits us really well. It's kind of a simple, kind of bit cartoony style, but it really just embraces that story and just blends it all to, puts it perfectly, and that's really what you want. You want a marriage of that, the script and the artwork, and Star and Bustos are just working really well together here. This is a fun book. It's still where we're checking out. I know it's not going to be, it's not going to be a big seller. Next issue is the final issue, but check it out when the trade comes out. Like I said, I've been very surprised by this book, so definitely well worth checking out. That's going to do it this week. Yep, short show, kids. But hopefully in the next few weeks we'll pick up a little more. But I kind of like lighter weeks. It kind of gives you a chance to, maybe read some stuff or pick up some stuff from your local comic shop that you maybe have missed in the past few weeks. As always, public service announcement: I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner, the owner, runs a great store there. If you're in the Long Beach area, definitely step by. It's a really great comic book store. He has they do a great pull service so you don't miss any of your books. They offer discounts on trades and graphic novels. They have a nice manga selection, really nice young adults, kids section. He's really been beefing that up. And also, he has a section for local creators that do books and stuff and prints, which is really great. It's once again, shop local. But as always, support your local comic shop. Like I said, I'm my local one is Pulp Fiction. Ryan, Annie, Wendy, and Derek. It's a really good store. And as always, support your local comic shop and pick up your books on a timely basis when you can. Because they have to pay for them before you get them. So definitely don't leave your stuff for a long period of time. Definitely pick it up. And I know the holidays is, a lot of people money wise, it gets really tight, but don't forget your local comic shop. And like I said, if not everybody lives in Southern California, but support your local comic shop. And as always, we end our show with Be Kind. Be kind to each other. I know things are tough for a lot of people, but being kind is something, it doesn't cost anything, and it's good for you, and it's good for everybody. Being kind doesn't cost anything. And like I said, and be kind to yourself. A lot of people tend to forget, it's one thing to be kind, but be kind to yourself. Just take a moment, take a deep breath, because, sometimes you just need to step back for a second and think of yourself. So be kind to yourself and be kind to others. That's what I try to do. Hopefully you all try to do that too. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share the video. Comments are welcome. I know I've been a little lax on the social media, especially since Twitter/X has pretty much turned into a dumpster fire. But we're, I'll try to I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Instagram. We're still on Twitter or X, or whatever is being called this. We also have our Facebook pages. So definitely check it out. Comments are welcome. Please let me know if you want me to, do something, maybe change things up. We're always trying to do different things. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.